I'm obnoxious, so says my outgoing social worker, by Billy Bumbo. I have more respect for a man who lets me know where he stands, even if he's wrong, than the one who comes up like an angel and is nothing but a devil. Malcolm X. My social worker has respawned. Charles has been replaced by Angela, yet another Nubian. But not before one last hurrah. And why? While I most assuredly think I spook healthcare professionals for reasons that will be made explicit in the course of this blog post, the truth is Charles has earned himself a promotion. He starts a new role as best interests assessor at the council. Meanwhile, I'm in the dirt, still scrambling for any modicum of respect as a starving writer and long-suffering service user. It's as if Charles and I are literally having a sliding doors moment, where his life continues to go from strength to strength while my life is still in the toilet. Am I jealous? A little, but based on his performance as my service provider, it seems to me that he has earned every bit of his success. He's the kind of inspirational grassroots black success story of which you don't hear enough. So, why am I a little jealous? Because he apparently is demonstrating excellence in the socio-political realm of the job, and that's an aspect of my career that long had me befuddled. Whether that is excellence or rank respectability politics, I'll let you decide in this blog post. You see, no matter how affable I am in presentation, the belligerent, justice-seeking Malcolm X lives in my shadow, and was prone to leak out in front of my white overlords. A smiley, articulate, competent veneer couldn't hide my simmering defiance, which, as I said, means I was prone to spooking authority figureheads. The following discourse represents the passing of the torch from Charles to Angela. This meeting was a masterclass in Charles constructing a shit sandwich. After 10 minutes of compliments, here comes the criticism. Billy's got this, obnoxious way of responding and then people get annoyed, said Charles. Okay, said Angela. They get very ticky about it, you know, but what you don't see is what led to that obnoxiousness, said Charles. Yeah? Said Angela. You know, because obviously something is triggered while he's working with us, said Charles. Mm-hmm, said Angela. But like I said, it doesn't bother me. I've walked in front of him before to take him to eat. Oh, I was banned by some of the people there too, said Charles. Laughs. Mm-hmm, yeah, said Angela. So when people go, oh, I go, calm down, I've seen worse, said Charles. Yeah, said Angela. So, and I think that that's what the issue is. It's just understanding that reactions towards a medical team come from a trigger, I said. Well, yeah, said Angela. At some point, I suspect in the last few months, my ears were burning. Clearly, this classless, spurious smear is the product of predecessor rancor. My defunct social workers who did not appreciate being taken down a peg by an uppity service user like me, whom they perceived to be operating above his station, engaging in watercooler bitchy backbiting. I suspect much of what came from my first post-incarceration social worker, a surreptitious bastion of white privilege, whom I diplomatically dismantled and then elbowed following the smear campaign he waged against me in the conditional discharge reports he authored for the Ministry of Justice. I've observed the egos of healthcare professionals who profess to be in it as a vocation are egregiously astounding. I saw this when I dared to offer constructive criticism about his smear campaign, if only because, by and large, they don't take advice from plebeian service users like me. The figurative chip on their shoulder is so grotesquely humongous to be as hunchbacked as Quasimodo. Obviously, as a fellow brother, Charles sees it too. White fragility masquerading as white privilege masquerading as white civility. But in this situation, that's his trigger, not mine. Or rather, that's his trauma he's replaying. Why? Because this is not to say my shit doesn't stink, but I'm seasoned enough to know I'm not being obnoxious. I'm being grounded and measured in my responses. How do I know this? Because I'm highly cognizant of the fact that if I react, I lose the war. Why? Because the therapeutic relationship is innately and insidiously asymmetrical. The service provider gets to define the rules of engagement, not a service user like me. So if I show the slightest sign of losing my shit, I vindicate their prejudiced, infantilist perception of me as a service user. That Charles falls for the propaganda of his predecessors and peers as regards me means he drank the Kool-Aid, with which they have figuratively been waterboarding him for at least all of his career. Respectability politics is the black man's burden, selling his soul for a paycheck. Granted, Charles appears to be doing better than making a paycheck. As a social worker and a university lecturer, the man literally has two jobs. On purpose. But who knows what manner of contortions into which he has had to bend his soul to sustain such demonstrations of excellence. Being human means managing self-doubt, but I'm past equivocating over my own integrity when questioned by charlatan healthcare professionals. I have the emotional scars for receipts to prove I've paid that debt and continue to pay that debt. But even when considering our common experience of being black in Britain, We met for no more than an hour of superficial discourse on 12 occasions over the past year. That certainly does not qualify Charles to profess to know the intimate machinations of my mind. See, the thing is, I wouldn't use the word obnoxious, I'd say charismatic, I facetiously countered. No, don't listen to him, said Charles. Charles and Angela expel nervous laughter. You have different views, said Angela. That's where we disagree, said Charles. But the reality is, as you'll come to realize, I'm not just shooting from the hip. I've done the research, I said. Okay, said Angela. I have read the journals, the articles about psychiatry, I said. Okay, said Angela, specifically the biomedical model, and I have thousands of people who are proponents of the anti-psychiatry movement, researchers who are the ones doing the work and can scientifically justify their hypotheses, so we can get into it on that basis, I said. Yeah, okay, I look forward to hearing more, said Angela. Our advice is to step out of it. Don't get into it, said Charles, diplomatically cautioning Angela. The whys and wherefores of psychiatric diagnosis are above their pay scale, not the social supervisor's remit. Fair enough. And I've tried to direct him onto, my teaching program with Bournemouth University. Yeah, but he refused. He thought I was exploiting him, said Charles. Show me the money, I exclaimed in an ode to Jerry Maguire. Laughs. While I appreciate his offer, he wants me to put myself in a vulnerable situation to teach his students about my origin story for no recompense. Best believe he's exploiting me. Yeah, exactly. Laughs. So he thought I was exploiting him, so he won't come into the program. But, that's how intense Billy and I could get, said Charles. Okay, said Angela, but within all that are the boundaries of respect. You see, people only see the action. Oh yeah, he's just walked out on everybody, but what did you do to make him walk out? And those are the preemptive factors that drive me mad when people approach. I think also because Billy and myself, agree strongly about the social influence of black men in mental health, and we know that being big, black and dangerous is not a myth. I'm going to be treated exactly the same way Billy's being treated. I'm a black man. I'm 6 feet 6 inches. I am loud, said Charles. Yeah, said Angela. So, young man, it doesn't mean I'll never see you again. But I'll be seeing you in a different capacity. I'm still going to give you my offer of inviting you onto the program. I know you don't want to come in because you think I'm a slave driver, said Charles in satirical fashion. Angela chuckles. Honestly, that's what he called me. I couldn't believe it, said a magnanimous Charles. It seems the brother Charles has gallantly gone into bat for me among his predecessors. He is correct in concluding I'm being triggered, but he is incorrect in inferring I'm reacting rather than responding to their triggers. His intentions, therefore, were off-key in capitulating to the characterological critique, being seemingly peddled by his peers as justified. I spent much of my incarceration capitulating to respectability politics, walking on eggshells around these disingenuous healthcare professionals for fear of upsetting their ability to listen to reason. But within the black experience that Charles and I share, there is nuance. As an ambivert that skews to introversion, I know I'm not loud, I'm just articulate in my lived experience. Nobody, least of all a psychiatrist rooted in the pseudoscientific biomedical model like Dr. X, knows me better than me. But I'm not obstinately dogmatic about it either. Why would I be? The science, specifically the lack thereof in psychiatric diagnosis, speaks for itself. Under those circumstances, there's a distinct difference between being diplomatically challenging, as pertains to my healthcare professional's dogma, and being obnoxious. Unfortunately, or fortunately, given that healthcare professionals are not used to healthy pushback, they are easily egotistically triggered. More specifically, there is a scarcity of nuance being applied to the service user's perspective that would permit any analysis to exist in the grey, rather than an overly crude binary standard to which healthcare professionals hold service users. That is, if I'm subservient to my healthcare professional's will, I am a good service user. If I am not subservient to my healthcare professional's will, then I am subject to being perceived as obnoxious. That is, socioculturally speaking, healthcare professionals, be they psychiatrists, social workers, or nurses, are microaggressively corrupt. That is the service user's burden to all intents and purposes, especially one as upwardly mobile as me. They got their pound of meat when my wife kicked me to the curb, sending me into a mental tailspin. I'm not about to fall for that trick again. That of believing in healthcare professionals more than they believe in me, as was the case with my wife. Due to childhood trauma, I stopped loving myself when I was with my wife, unhealthily heaping all that misplaced love on her. I learned my lesson. Never again. These Teflon technocrats can conjure up whatever excuse they need to point the finger at me and absolve themselves of their inappropriate service in tittle-tattle among themselves. But will they get away with it? Not on my watch. Mark my words, they will know that I have absolute clarity of the cry bullies that they really are, rather than the saints they purport to be. Billy Bumbo is a bullshit-free zone. Now, if there's one thing I know, following the Negredo I endured witnessing my marriage implode, and the subsequent emotional hell it elicited through which I had to walk, I throw zero shade on their character. Why? Because it's fucking human. And this might sound egregiously offensive to some healthcare professionals, but I simply ask that, like me, they face their shadow, drop the God complex, and embrace their humanity. That way they can do what they profess to want to do, and genuinely help people like me on empathetic terms rather than the insidiously sympathetic terms they all too apparently practice. And that's why and how I spook healthcare professionals. And yet, although I would describe myself as woke, my perspective is antithetical to cancel culture. That is, I'm not into fungibility in the pursuit of control freakery, I'm into fungibility in the pursuit of competence, which is to say I tolerate no deadweight in my multidisciplinary team, whether that makes me obnoxious or not. In any case, Charles may at times be wrong, but he's no devil masquerading as an angel. As ever, all views are appreciated. Feel free to let me know how you feel in the comments. This blog is currently free to read, but it's also how I hope to pay all of my bills. If you have any suggestions or feedback on how I can earn your paid subscription, you're welcome to speak your mind. billybumbo123@gmail.com. And if this is too big of a commitment, I'm always grateful for a smoothie. https://ko-fi.com/billybumbo.